Hi, my name is Eric Stewart, and I'm with Code Green Community, and I'm interviewing Shon Law over Skype. Shon, can you introduce yourself? Who are you, and where are you located?
Hey, my name's Sean, and I live in Longwood, Florida. That's in central Florida, a little bit to the north of Orlando. It's part of the greater Orlando area.
Great. And what is your interest in permaculture?
My interest in permaculture evolved from my interest in Aikido, which is kind of my first love. It's a martial art based upon harmonizing energy. So as I became more focused on the kind of bigger problems, meaning those of exhausting our energy systems, it became more and more evident that we need to look at regenerative design and how human activity can actually result in more fruit forests rather than less. So that's kind of where I started to encounter permaculture as a method of design and regenerative, life-friendly design.
Well, that's fantastic. I remember we met each other at the Florida Permaculture Convergence, and we got to explore what other permaculturists were doing all around the state of Florida. It was really interesting. And I believe when we were there, we were discussing you were under a predicament at the time. You had a problem that you were facing. You had established a front yard garden, and you're still kind of battling the city at this point. Would you like to explain your situation and the problem that you've been facing?
Sure. The origin of the issue with the city came in the summer of 2012 when a tree fell on my house. And I had already not been using fossil fuels. I would use a reel mower and a scythe for my yard. And actually, in the front yard, I didn't even have a garden. But when the tree fell on my house, I cut it up and arranged the logs in kind of like this along the front. And we'd sit out there and hang out. And the grass we would still keep pretty short with the reel mower. And the city started giving me a hard time about the logs, because some neighbors complained. I explained to code enforcement that I was using the tree material on site and we were sitting on it, like benches. And it looked actually at that point pretty conventional, but code enforcement would hear none of it. So at that time, actually a little bit prior, I'd already started learning about natural farming. This is before I even knew the term permaculture. And in the backyard, I had started experimenting with the process for converting lawns into gardens or even food forests by a very low-cost method. So between the high grass in the backyard and the logs in the front, that's when code enforcement began their proceedings. And I would continue to try to appease them. And over the course of a few months, and indeed the eventual ruling of the special magistrate against me, it became obvious that my attempts to appease them were unsuccessful. So at that point, it was kind of like, whether you go all the way and cut everything down and do what you don't think is really correct, or whether you continue exploring the method. At that time, I then started taking the permaculture design certification course. So I decided to push ahead since, I think that the conventional lawn care is a big problem. And the only purpose of lawns, as far as I see it, is that they kind of are like holding spaces for where we can grow food. So to that extent, they're useful. And then if you let them grow for a while and then sheet mulch them, they also make a good mulch. So that's, pretty much it. And over the course of, a little more than a year, things have evolved to where they are now.
Well, that's wonderful. And what kind of solutions do you have that you're trying to implement locally to kind of rectify this problem that you're facing? And I mean, I just want to throw in that I've been facing something similar here in Pasco County. My own personal problem was I started a garden and I had chickens, and the county wouldn't allow me to have chickens. and I got a fee for that, and I challenged them, and I eventually got rid of my chickens to appease the county, and I didn't want to get rid of them. I really wanted to keep them to provide food. But on a local level, our city, we actually implemented a program where it allowed people in their front yards to start up a garden. I guess in your city they don't have that type of ordinance.
Sure. In Longwood, the two ordinances that are relevant to this situation are both from 1982, and one is high grass and weeds, where grass or plants that they call weeds taller than 10 inches are illegal. And the other is they apply trash and debris to tree material, or anything they don't like, they can say, oh, it's trash and debris. And the basis in city ordinance, the logic is that high grass could, animals could live in it, and everyone knows that animals are evil. So they're afraid of animals. Basically, the local solution that was tried, well, first I met with the special magistrate and explained about Florida-friendly landscaping, and cited the relevant parts of Florida-friendly landscaping, which they ignored. Florida-friendly landscaping was instantiated in 2009 state statute. And basically, in Florida, we're running out of water because we waste a lot of it, and we also poison ourselves. And then we use a ton of fossil fuels and labor to grow grass and then cut it down every week, like some kind of Sisyphus. So anyways, went through the Florida-friendly landscaping stuff. The special magistrate, ignored that. So then appealed to county, the circuit court. So basically, my attempted remedy was through the legal system. My hope was that this would be an opportunity to establish a strong precedent for other people that practice life-friendly methods in Florida, because I know a lot of people have this problem. So I thought maybe we could get a state solution by having, a good case that would establish a good precedent for others. And we went all the way through district court. Basically, they said that the special magistrate followed, due process of law, and that, tough luck, buddy. So I appealed all the way to the Florida Supreme Court, and they, said that they were without jurisdiction. So that's kind of where we are now. As far as like other remedies, one that we'll be exploring is seeing about updating the city code and ordinances. And that sort of stuff. And then there's kind of the ongoing remedy of civil disobedience. So basically doing what you think is right. I believe it's a natural right to, to grow what you want. And that the government doesn't have the authority to, tell you what you can or can't grow, or tell you how tall your plants can or can't be. That's a ridiculous case of tyranny. Like even the Soviet Union doesn't do that. Communist China doesn't do that. So it's like this weird totalitarian conformity that we face now. So somebody has to stand against it. So, I guess I will, and hopefully some other people will too.
Well, I give you props. I mean, to give the effort and to give it a shot and try permaculture, it's totally outside the norm, like you mentioned. It's just this cookie cutter suburban lots where every house looks the same and every lawn is manicured. I totally agree with you 100%, buddy. My thing is it's diversity. I love going in my own personal garden and seeing butterflies and seeing bees and seeing that it's a sanctuary for other life, not just me as a human being. And I applaud you for what you're doing. I realize also, you didn't mention it, but I've been watching what you've been doing, and I know that you've done some good stuff. You've set up a petition online. You recently hosted a blitz at your house where you had people show up and make pathways and try and beautify it and make it look more attractive. And you've been trying to get local people involved on getting more of these gardens set up. So high five to you over the internet. Because that's most needed. We need leaders that step up and take the initiative like that and get other people psyched to want to do it in their neighborhoods.
Well, the nice thing about this particular method is that it's very, very low cost. So it costs so much less than conventional landscaping. And in the meantime, it grows food, and it also grows a nicer environment for life. Right now, we really need to grow forests and biodiversity at a faster rate than the destroyers continue to destroy it, or suffer really dire consequences. And also around the country, there's lots and lots of water problems that, if not already here, will be here soon. So wasting our water, spraying it all over useless lawns or basically extinctionscapes is something that we really need to change. And also, as of course you know, and I think a lot of people know now, most of our food comes from thousands of miles away. So, you know, we have all these lawns. Again, when I started this, I didn't really know that much about gardening. And that's the nice thing about the natural farming method, is that it's based on the notion that actually we don't know very much, in a place of humility. So people that have never gardened before can do what I've done, and it will definitely work. You'll have lots of big, beautiful plants, and lots of, you know, different wildlife and food that you and your family can eat. So in that sense, I think it's kind of a nice stage one for people that, you know, don't have the time to garden or feel intimidated by permaculture, you know, different kind of things like that are very design and intellectual. This way is like, it's very easy that anybody can do. So it's kind of like, at a baseline, everybody can do at least this. Mulch the grass, make seed balls, stuff will grow. It'll be very interesting. And then, you know, that's kind of a nice way to start your learning process. And that's how I started my learning process. And it's been a lot of fun and very interesting.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Shon. I really appreciate you spending some time and doing a Skype interview with me. I'm going to put out on this YouTube a link to your petition, and if there's any last minute things, how would you like to share with others on helping their efforts in getting gardens installed, or any challenges that other people might face?
As far as the kind of legal challenges and that sort of stuff, I can't say I've been successful. So I wouldn't, think that I should tell you what to do in that regard. What I can say is that when you live in a society where letting your grass grow is an act of revolution or civil disobedience, then you know something is deeply wrong in the government, that they would control every aspect of your life so much. It's like, get out of my yard, government. This country was founded on property rights, and I can't imagine what our founding fathers would have said if the King of England came and told them, you know, what crops they could or couldn't grow or how long their grass had to be. That being said, what I can offer is a very easy way to convert lawns into baby food forests. And basically, again, that's just grow the grass tall, mulch it, make the seed balls, a Google query of seed balls. We'll give you all that information. And then, again, what I would encourage us as a people to do is everybody to do this and just not comply with the government. If enough of us really did it and stood up, I think that, we could get things changed. The problem is that we all are easily intimidated. So then it ends up being like one or two people kind of stand up and get whacked down with, the governmental hammer. But again, we really need to grow forests, and we really need to grow our own food. And the time is now. So I really encourage us all to get growing. And for those of us for those like you, Eric, that that are really good and know more and can do design and have the time and energy to put into that, totally, that's awesome. For the rest of us that are ignorant and lazy, I have a very good ignorant and lazy method. That anybody can do. You can have a full-time job, throw some seed balls, mulch the grass. It'll work. You'll be growing something, and you'll have enough to share with people. So, it's nice.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Shon, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
So long.
Bye. Just upon harmonizing energy. As I became more focused on the kind of bigger problems, meaning those of exhausting our energy systems, it became more and more evident that we need to look at
Hi, my name is Eric Stewart, and I'm with Code Green Community, and I'm interviewing Shon Law over Skype. Shon, can you introduce yourself? Who are you, and where are you located?
Hey, my name's Sean, and I live in Longwood, Florida. That's regenerative design and how human activity can actually result in more fruit forests rather than less. So that's kind of where I started to encounter permaculture as a method of design and regenerative, life-friendly design.
Well, that's fantastic. I remember we met each other at the Florida Permaculture Convergence, and we got to explore what other permaculturists were doing all around the state of Florida. It was really interesting. And I believe when we were there, we were discussing you were under a predicament at the time. You had a problem that you were facing. You had established a front yard garden, and you're still kind of battling the city at this point. Would you like to explain your situation and the problem?
It's in central Florida, a little bit to the north of Orlando. It's part of the greater Orlando area.
Great. And what is your interest in permaculture?
My interest in permaculture evolved from my interest in Aikido, which is kind of my first love. It's a martial art